You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about using short-term routines in supervision. This week we read, You Don't Have to Follow the Same Routines Forever, published in Psychology Today 2023. Heather, what are some of the short-term routines that you use in supervision?
I think at the very beginning, when I'm getting to know a new supervisee, it's about kind of just setting like, this is how we do supervision. So it's like, hi, welcome back. You know, those things, like quick little greeting. How was your week on other things, not counseling? But then very quickly kind of setting the structure for how supervision goes with them getting comfortable talking about their clients and then talking about their piece of it, right? Like their process. I think it's helpful at the very beginning to do that maybe for the first 2 or 3 months that you just are getting a groove of like, oh, this is how supervision goes before you throw too many, you know.
Yeah. Before you start getting really flexible and maybe getting rid of some of that structure.
Right.
So you're saying almost like training wheels?
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
Yeah, like that in the beginning, there's a lot of structure and it could be short term and it doesn't structure every single second of the whole supervision hour, but there is some specific supervision just to create an expectation.
Right. A long time ago when I first became a supervisor, I set kind of like a template for my own note-keeping kind of ideas to make sure we hit those like all the time, just to keep me, kind of make me accountable to like, oh, did we check this week? Did we do this? And that way I was aware of like, yes, we did all the things.
I can think maybe something I don't like to spend time on, but could be a short-term routine would be talking about paperwork.
Absolutely.
Related to state licensure or something, whatever credential we're working towards. I don't really want to spend time on that every single time, but maybe in the beginning, we do need to check in and go, okay, did you do these administrative things? Okay, got it. Let's move on. Or got it. Here's what the next step is. Now let's move on.
Right.
Okay. What about it with some intention? You could be building your relationship with that person.
Right. Purposely asking about their week that's not related to counseling.
Yeah, like what's going on at home.
Right.
I think that helps you to create a foundation.
Right. And then they also know that like they don't have to keep it. I mean, supervision becomes something that's very like interpersonal. So they don't have to keep it so straight laced with like, I am here to report to you on my clients. You know?
Right. Okay. And so, that does really sound like training wheels or
it does.
like, even it makes me think about how kindergarten is structured a lot of times, that like the idea of centers. Okay, let's spend 15 minutes here. Let's move on to the next thing. And that transition helps them to know this is how you can, you pick up in between, you pick up all the things in this center and move on to the next thing. That is our next point. In the article, it talked about the benefits of flexibility and creativity using short-term routines, which sounds kind of maybe backwards from what we just described, structure,
but I
organization.
think that is also as things come up in supervision, right? Like maybe there's a board update that you need to talk about and you need to have that flexibility built in a little bit because maybe it's something that's going to change how you do things for a little while. It could be something like, ethics. Like you see maybe a pattern and you're like, well, we need to start really driving home some of these points that maybe our supervisees kind of struggling with.
Well, I think maybe the part that when I think of this, I'm emphasizing in my mind the idea that it's a short-term routine. So it's not a routine that you have to stick with forever, but the flexibility and creativity of, like you described, this is something that you've noticed kind of a pattern, so you can focus on it for a short term, but then it's not something that you think needs to be a specific component every single time.
We don't have to talk about it every time. We just need to talk about it as it comes up.
I had a supervisee not that long ago that I've worked with for a while, and they mentioned that they were having issues with their documentation.
Oh, okay.
And probably for a month, every single time, we made sure we spent some time to talk about documentation. Right? But how boring would it be if every single time we talked about
hour for
right, that we went back to that. Mm-hmm. So having the ability to be flexible and go, okay, I feel like not that we couldn't come back to it, but I feel like we've addressed this. Mm-hmm. It's changed or improved. Let's move on.
Right.
Can you think of some other topics that maybe for a short term you've been flexible or creative and it's become part of the session, but
I think when you have supervisees that are at like clinic settings, mm-hmm. you almost have to, right? They work with different people. Things are going to come up. One of my supervisees in particular works with several different psychiatrists. And one in particular kind of gives her anxiety and makes her worked up and feels overwhelmed by it. And so as she experiences those things, we really carve out time to maybe like, oh, today we need to focus on this one mm-hmm. particular situation. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too. And I was thinking clients, but maybe there's something happening in sessions or in part of their work experience that needs more attention for a little bit.
Right.
Maybe a client that's especially difficult or emotional,
right?
Or maybe they're wanting to learn like practice a new skill.
Mm-hmm. That could be very true. Yeah.
So maybe they're working with somebody and they think, I want to do sand tray I think that would work really well with this person. Mm-hmm. And so you spend some time for a while each week thinking about sand tray.
Right. I think that's a good way to look at it. I think as you build in those things and you see those things come up, that's where the flexibility comes in, that it doesn't have to look like, okay, we are here, talk about your clients and all mm-hmm. of them. Make sure you get through every single one. And the next, that's just.
That is so true too. I mean, I think that's the opposite of a short-term routine. That's bleh. A long-term routine. And I think I hadn't thought of it that way. I think that totally wipes out the ability to be creative or flexible.
Right.
When you have a routine that you feel like you have to stick to every mm-hmm. single time.
Right.
What about, I don't know, flexibility or creativity in short-term routines means that you could be creative or flexible, or that the supervisee could be creative or flexible?
I think both could be. I think it could be either way. I mean, sometimes with my supervisees that I've had a long time, mm-hmm. I feel like they feel like they have more freedom to use supervision time. Like it doesn't have to be me-led.
So true. Right. Yeah.
You know, the ones that are brand new and come in, they're just like, okay, I've shown up for class. What are we doing today for supervision? You know, they want you to be the leader.
Uh-huh. So I wish I could name it off the top of my head. That's definitely a model of supervision where the more advanced they get, the less structure there is, and the more they're driving it, the more they're leading it, versus in the beginning where there's a lot more structure mm-hmm. and really the supervisor is directing or leading that. So you're kind of handing off the ability to direct, to lead that.
Yeah, I don't think it is structured in the point that it's like, oh, you've been here a year now, so you have this. I think it's just a natural progression.
Right. So different quality or component of the flexibility or creativity is that it could be unique to each person.
Right.
So you have what if you had, I'm sure we've both had supervisees like this before, that they just have more or less life experience.
Right.
Or work experience. Right. So you're at a different starting point mm-hmm. with them.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Mm-hmm. And they're going to need separate things for, have you ever had a supervisee? I think we've talked about this before, where they may be either texting or emailing you, but they like, don't use grammar or don't, and then like talking about like professional communication. Like you can't so it's like you end up talking about things that you don't necessarily plan. Like that mm-hmm. could come up just because you read one of their notes or they addressed an email to you and you're like, please tell me you don't email other people like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. So it can be more spontaneous, spur of the moment. So maybe you had a really clear idea of what you thought supervision was going to be like. And then you get one of those emails
and you're like, oh,
no punctuation, no mm-hmm. salutation. And they start out with, hey,
can you something. Blah blah
right or they just no right and you think, oh my goodness, I hope you're not emailing clients or a supervisor or boss or something in that way. So you can be flexible. Well, so one of the last points in the article is this idea of time boxing.
Right.
So I haven't heard of this before, but the idea makes sense. I haven't used this word for it before. Right.
Yeah.
But the article is suggesting that time boxing is a solution and it is a form of a short-term routine.
Right.
So how would you describe time boxing?
Taking my lists, like my tasks that have to be accomplished. I usually have time in my day at some point that I can look at them and go, oh, those things have to happen today. Mine's usually about time management and figuring out where they fit in. But I've learned that it's usually the thing that's going to bug me the most if it's not taken care of, right? Okay, I've only got this much time to take care of these things because that's how my schedule allows for today. So which thing is annoying me or actually has a timestamp on it that has to be taken care of?
Yeah. I think, okay, those are the things I would put in.
Yes.
What you put within time boxing. I think, not like this is the best definition ever, but I think it would be that I am putting some tasks in a box that are time limited.
Right. You're not,
time boxing, kind of a crummy definition, right?
I like your term better.
Well, haven't you ever heard, I feel like this was a second grade lesson, that if you're writing a definition, you can't use the words within the definition, right?
You can't use the
same, right? But that's what that feels like, is that you've got some tasks and you're going to put them in this box, and the box is a time period.
Right.
So when I think of this, I don't know where I think it was in some kind of business model book, but they called it slaying your dragons. And so when I slay my dragons, like you described, it's probably tasks that I'm not looking forward to, or that maybe I've been
putting aside.
Yeah. And so I've been dragging my feet, and they're piling up because I've been dragging my feet. And so I dedicate a certain amount of time to those things, and then I'm done with them.
Right.
And not, well, they didn't get done in 15 minutes, so I'm not doing them. But my example would be that I might set aside the 30 minutes first thing in the morning before I do anything else, when I'm ready for work, and I am going to answer emails that I haven't answered yet.
Right.
That I've been
just get it, check it. Yeah.
They've been sitting there and I just haven't gotten to them, maybe because I haven't gotten to them, but also maybe because I am avoiding it. But in that 30 minutes, I'm going to be undistracted, not thinking about other things, and I'm going to knock out some things quickly and then move on with my day. And the reason I do that in the morning is that if I chose a time in the middle of the day or the end of the day, if I'm running a few minutes behind, or if something is getting kind of pushed, then I still don't want to write those emails. So it's one more reason to avoid doing them.
When you said you did it first thing in the morning, I was like, oh, that's that's what should happen. When I first went into private practice, I did not schedule office time. I just saw my clients, and then either after their session or that night, type up my notes, and then it's all of a sudden 2 or 3 weeks goes by and you have all these tasks that need to be untangled.
That you don't want to do. They're not fun.
Right.
Yeah. I also think the idea, at least in this, of slaying your dragons, is that once you've done that, once you've set aside that little chunk of time and you've accomplished some things that maybe you were dragging your feet on, that it feels freeing, relieving, empowering.
Right, kind of starts your day.
Something, knocked out those emails. And so then you're also off to a good start.
Right.
You feel like
okay,
did that.
Right.
Okay, so that's how it affects our practices. How do you think you manage that or use that really usefully in supervision?
I'm not sure that I've done it exactly that way, but I do always ask in supervision. And it's not always the same. I mean, I'll start supervision this way, but if I feel like there's nothing else and we've only kind of just hit the surfaces, then I usually say, are there other things we need to be discussing? I'm asking them for their lists of maybe the things that you don't, how to email a parent and say no, or how to, how to decline a client and what's required, those kind of things.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you said that maybe you haven't done it exactly like this in supervision, but I think that we described this really clearly, that if, let's imagine we need to revisit, you were supposed to make an abuse report last week.
Right.
Or we need to talk about your paperwork you submitted to the state.
Right.
Or something like that. I think you and I are front loading that.
That's true. We're
putting that in the beginning, because I think what I do once I've accomplished those things that feel like, okay, we have to hit on that stuff, that if we do ever get to a session where we didn't have to talk about notes, we don't need to talk about an abuse report, there aren't any of those things that need to be time boxed, then we end up talking about I don't know, like something that's still really useful, but something that also doesn't feel as pressing.
Right.
Like a training that I went
Right. I
to.
was just going to say something I read
Right.
or what I knew they were reading.
Right.
What did you
Or
think about that?
maybe a technique that they were interested in. And maybe I should time box this because I do feel like it's really useful. But I think when I have time like that, maybe towards the end of a session, I might ask especially if we're in a group, I'll ask, what's something that you feel really accomplished in this week?
I like that.
Or what was like a really great counseling moment that you had this week that you want to share? And that doesn't feel as pressing, but it is.
Right. So it is in the process.
Yeah, maybe I am going to revisit that and make sure I time box that for the beginning more often. But I feel like what we've described or what happens more often is that we're time boxing things, administrative, emergencies towards the beginning of the session. And then if we have time or after those things have been addressed, then we move on to
the normal routine.
Things that feel less pressing, things that feel like the ongoing work of supervision.
Right. I like that.
So maybe we are doing this.
We didn't even know we were doing it.
Well, thanks for listening today. Heather and I would love to hear about some of the ways that you use short-term routines in supervision. Thanks for listening to Supervision with a Vision.